Greetings, Duelist, and welcome to my Metaphys Deck Profile. Now, there's a lot of reasons to play Metaphys. If you've ever thought to yourself, I like Lightsworn, but I wish they had something that did that in the Banish Zone, then Metaphys is for you. If your favorite phase is the standby phase, then Metaphys is for you. Studies have also shown that people that play Metaphys are up to 15% more handsome than other duelists. The full deck list will be available in the description, and without further ado, let's begin. Beginning with the monsters, we have 3 each of Metaphys Tyrant Dragon, Nephthys, and Daedalus. Because in this build we're banishing more or less indiscriminately, we want to play as many of the large Metaphys monsters as we're allowed, so we have the highest chance of banishing at least one from the top of the deck. In other Metaphys builds, if you have more control over what you can banish, you can reduce the number of each card to 2. With Tyrant Dragon's ability to special summon, I'd say it's the most important of the 3 to have banished, with Daedalus being the least important, seeing as it functions as an intermediary between Tyrant Dragon and Nephthys. If you're combining Metaphys with another deck that has level 8s, you could consider playing 1 to 2 copies of Trade-In, both as an unbrick and also as graveyard fodder for Decoy Dragon and Executor. And if you value having Nephthys in your hand, you could also consider playing Waterfall of Dragon Souls. Ragnarok is our star, and we want to play as many copies of him as we can to increase the chances of having him available from the deck when we need him. If we run out of Ragnarok, we lose. Just kidding, but the game does get a lot harder. Decoy Dragon we're also playing 3 of. Decoy Dragon is just about all the protection we have, and we want to play 3 copies in case we banish multiple and one gets stuck in the banish zone, or we have to use it for synchro material. Now for the non-Metaphys stuff. We have 3 Aloof Lupine, 3 Necroface, and 1 Spiritmaster. Now Aloof Lupine can banish 2 of our Metaphys monsters to get things going. Or it can banish Necroface to really get things going. Ragnarok banishes 3 monsters, Necroface banishes 5. Aloof Lupine can banish 2 Necroface. You do the math. Of course, Necroface also banishable by Ragnarok's effect. Since we're banishing zombies anyway, Spiritmaster is a really nice to have destruction effect. It can't destroy Imperial Iron Wall, but it can pop a lot of everything else, including skill drain. Thank goodness Aloof Lupine banishes for cost. In a deck full of high-level light monsters that like banishing, it's very hard not to play at least 1 copy of Lightray Grepher. As mentioned before, our Metaphys cards don't mind being in the graveyard, and it's also very useful to have a monster that can special summon itself, so we can use it for either synchro or link material. As for Tatsunecro, I could give you a very legitimate reason as to why I'm playing it, like how I'm using it to banish either a level 4 or 8 monster from my hand, to summon Shiranui Squiresaga or Gashadokuro to get around an opponent's troublesome monster, but it's really just because it's a zombie seahorse and it's cute as fuck. Look at it. It's cute, right? And to round out the monsters, we have Metaphys Executor, the boss monster of the deck. I was against playing Executor for the longest time, but I found it's a good card at 1. If you draw it and you don't need it, there's usually a way you can use it to take it out of your hand. Lightray Grepher, Asymmetaphys, Metaphys Ascension, and so on. But in the games that you draw it and you do need it, sometimes it can make all the difference. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 Left Arm Offering, one of the most powerful spells in the game. We're very lucky that we can play this in Metaphys without feeling the full effect of the cost, because 9 times out of 10, we're going to get our arm back. Our 2 main deck targets for Left Arm Offering are Gold Sarcophagus and 1 Day of Peace. Gold Sarcophagus, relatively straightforward, banishes Decoy Dragon, Ascension, Necroface, whatever you need it to. As for 1 Day of Peace, it's a very strong card in its own right, but the reason we're using it in this deck is because Metaphys loves to go second. So what do you do if you go first? Activate 1 Day of Peace. Force yourself to go second. It's not quite the same, but it's close enough. Obviously also very useful against decks that want to murder you. For our Metaphys spells, we have 3 Asymmetaphys and 2 Metaphys Factor. Asymmetaphys is our draw card. It helps us cycle through our deck, banishing the things we don't need as well as the things that we do need. So we have 3 of these. We also have 2 Metaphys Factor, the only kind of negation protection that we have. For Factor, we're playing 2 copies to try and keep at least 1 copy in our deck for as long as possible that we can add to our hand with Metaphys Nephthys as we banish more and more cards as the game goes on. Both these cards also searchable by Left Arm Offering. Finally, our traps. Metaphys Ascension is a great card both to draw and also to hit on a banish. For Metaphys Dimension, we're playing 2 copies of it for the same reason that we're playing 2 copies of Metaphys Factor. It's essential that we have this in our deck, because it's the only non-monster spell and trap removal that we have. Moving on to the extra deck, we have at least 1 Metaphys Horus, which is obligatory. If they give you a monster with a level, you can overlay both to make Vampire Sheridan, at which point you activate the rare cut magic that I'm not playing to summon Lancelot. Don't take me seriously. For our Tatsunecro targets, we have 1 Squiresaga and a Gacha Dokuro, depending on if it was a level 4 or 8 monster that you banished. Squiresaga is just beautiful. Gacha Dokuro is also beautiful in its own way. It's very useful for running over things like a Cyber Dragon Infinity. You can't negate that which doesn't activate. Geomathmic Final Sigma is just obnoxious, which is why we have one. When Ragnarok inflicts battle damage, it can summon a Metaphys monster from your deck, and if you special summon a level 8 monster, you can synchro both of those together to make Final Sigma. Final Sigma, while it's in the extra monster zone, is immune to everything except Mathmech cards, which is going to be a pain in your ass for your opponent if they're not playing Mathmech, and great for us because it's immune to our own Daedalus. To help our Ragnarok inflict more battle damage, we have Pentestag that helps it do piercing damage to defense position targets. It's also nice to have a generic Link 2 monster, just in case we get hit with a Nightmare Corruptor Ibli, and we need a way out. For a deck full of worm monsters, Shaman of the Tenyi is indispensable. And we also have a Gaia Knight. We have Gaia. And we have Gaia to proc Shaman's destruction effect. Because we can. We have a few level 8 synchros, usually summoned when we have Lightray Grepher available to us. We have Angel of Zera, which is a very strong monster that can usually hit upwards of 3.5k, which is very important, and also doesn't care about being banished by Daedalus. We have Stardust Spark Dragon, which I usually like to make turn 1 with Lightray Grepher and Ragnarok if I have both of those available. It's good for protecting our Decoy Dragon, as well as some of our more important spell and traps. And finally, we have Scrap Dragon to force the destruction effect of Chaos Zone, which we have in our side deck. Stardust Spark Dragon is a more conservative option, if you want to replace that with Judgment the Dragon of Heaven, like I'm about to, or a Chaos Ruler, feel free to do so. Between Tyrant Dragon's ability to special summon monsters from the hand and Decoy Dragon's ability to special summon itself, we usually have sufficient materials to make BLS, and we get the full benefit too, if we use some of our larger Metaphys monsters as link material. We have 1 Nothung the Starlight. Sometimes you're just 800 life points away from game, and if you have Ragnarok and Decoy Dragon available, Nothung can finish the job. We have 1 Horse Prince that can special summon a Gren Medusa that we keep in the side deck, and we have the Scroll of Bewitchment that lets us do so, also in the side deck. Finally, we have Clara and Rushka, which lets us activate Left Arm Offering whilst Secret Village of the Spellcasters is on the field. It can also let us put a normal summoned Metaphys monster in the grave, if it's important for us to grab it back with Decoy Dragon. It's also cute as side deck time. We have a Harpy's Feather Duster and Raigeki, which are alternative targets for Left Arm Offering. Raigeki's at 3 now, but nobody needs 3 Raigeki. I also know Lightning Storm exists, but I'm old school. One thing I would consider changing is replacing Raigeki with a Dark Ruler no more. I just think Raigeki is useful in more situations because it gives our Ragnarok a more direct path of attack. Tired of burn damage? Play Soul Absorption. Chaos Zone is a great alternative to Metaphys Factor against decks that don't have a lot of negation. It's also very useful against decks where we need more field presence. For some decks, the only form of removal is either targeting or destruction, and Magical Midbreaker Field mitigates a lot of that. This is so we can protect our Decoy Dragon until we get into the battle phase, where it can really shine. Dimensional Fissure is also an indispensable turn 1 option against decks that need Graveyard. Also very beneficial to us, of course, especially when we have Decoy Dragon and we use it as a synchro material. When we lose it, it always comes back. We have 2 Arcfiend Eccentric that I'm mainly using for spell and trap destruction. Spiritmaster can't do everything. Eccentric really helps with that. You can also add it back to your hand with Aloof Lupine when it gets destroyed by battle. It's also nice to have another Pendulum Scale for Decoy Dragon, just in case we want to special summon something, which is almost never, but the possibility is there. We also have Inferno Tempest, which is yet another target for Left Arm Offering. If your opponent has anything larger than 3300 attack, it's very likely that we'll be able to activate this and try to deck them out. We do have 3 Necroface after all. We also have 1 Battle Fader, which can prove very useful if the only thing standing between you and losing is an Aloof Lupine, and Battle Fader is banished. And to round out the side deck, we have 2 Grand Magician and 1 Scroll of Bewitchment, for literally no other reason than it's fun. We're playing a deck that can make level 6 synchros and banishes a lot. It'd be a wasted opportunity not to include these cards. As for other side deck options, I will consider Ancient Forest and Nobleman of Crossout. They can help us against the face-down monsters that we struggle with. Other than that, anything that can help you get rid of Eternal Soul. Some attack boosters wouldn't go amiss. An Axe of Despair or Moon Mirror Shield really helps out our Tyrant Dragon in Ragnarok. 100 battle damage is still battle damage after all, as well as gives us some insurance against strong monsters such as Ultimate Falcon and Great Magnus. With that, the Metaphys Deck Profile is complete. I do my best to design decks that represent the archetype well, and are also fun to play. With that being said, please take this deck for a spin, and have as much fun as you can. Thank you for your time, Duelist. Until next time.